Producer Jake here with the very first episode in which will be an ongoing series that I'm going to call Blaster Throwback. And what this is going to be is basically a series where I take a look at blasters from the past and just give my opinion on them, whether they're still fun and usable or if they were just total gimmicky toys that should never have been made, one way or the other. But mostly going to be looking back with a positive opinion. And came up with a name with a little help from my wife, so wanted to make sure I got that in there. But the ongoing series will be called Blaster Throwback. And of course, being the Busby fan that I am, in front of you is a Busby Blaster. This is the predecessor to the Snipe. It's called the Busby Rangemaster for those of you who didn't already notice what it is and knew it right offhand. It's from back in 2012. That's right, this thing is 7 years old. It came in the blue you see, a white color, as well as a gray color. And like the Snipe, it is a big blaster. In fact, I have Snipes right behind me. It's actually even bigger than the blaster that took its place. This thing's actually about 1.5 inches to 2 inches longer than the Snipe in overall length. Came with a scope that slid on the top, had a detachable bipod, and, much like the Snipe, a threaded-on barrel. Very neat overall blaster. And you see, of course, that it's bolt action. So you're automatically thinking, okay, bolt action Springer. No, that is not a Springer. That is a pump action air blaster. And what you do, you take a dart, and yes, it does accept modern darts. That is one of the things. It was actually from the Extreme series. It included some of the Air Max revolving cylinder blasters, as well as the Panther and the Rangemaster itself. Put it in a dart. Pump it up a few times, and fire. With surprising power for an old blaster. Back in the time, think about its competitors. It was competing against Deploys, if the Deploy was even out in 2012. I have to research that one. I'm not sure exactly when the Deploy first came out. But I know Mavericks were around, and that was back in the N-Strike heyday. So, not elite blasters that it was competing with. It was competing with the original N-Strike. And this thing was pushing out between 60 to 70 feet per second. Back then. And the whole part I was about to get to on the Extreme series is that it actually used a different dart than if you remember, the slightly short Busby darts that are yellow. And actually, got a package of them. These. The yellow with the purple tips. These aren't standard size. And that's not actually what this used. This came with the Extreme dart, which was black. And way back when, Blaster Hub even did a little test on them and found them to be better. And part of it is that it was not just the dart, it was also the fact that these new breeches that accepted those darts were better. When the breech doesn't have a huge hooked dart post in there, guess what? Regular darts fit in just fine. And they fit good enough, but I almost would brass this thing. But we'll get into that in a bit. The operation is very simple. You put in a dart, and again, just like I did just before, give it a few pumps, and fire. With, almost near elite performance. I have chronographed this thing shooting anywhere from between 65 to 69.5 feet per second. So that's pushing up there to what, like a lot of the Modulus series blasters currently fire at. So this is a 7-year-old blaster that still would be reasonably competitive in a backyard atmosphere. No, you're not going to take it to a Nerf war in a big city. Say, for instance, like if you live where they have regular NIC level performance, no, you go up against a Prophecy or a highly modified Strife or whatever, you're going to get beaten easily and badly. But sometimes the hobby of foam firing blasters doesn't have to be about pure performance. I mention performance because this thing is surprisingly capable 7 years after it's been released. In that, you could use this against some of the modern day blasters and not be too terribly, bad off. I play around with my family a lot. That's where the bulk of my enjoyment of the hobby comes from. The way that the blasters are intended to be used. I played this with my family and I still had a blast. And that's where something like this can come into play. You can flip out the little bipod, set up, have a pile of darts near you and just, feed this thing, pump it, feed a dart into it, and fire away. And as you hear, that's got a good pop to it, because it is actually still decently competitive. And for me, the look of it, the feel of it, the whole, involvement, I should say, not everything has to be a mag-fed flywheel or springer, firing as many darts as you can and pulling the trigger. Sometimes it's just fun to be a little involved in the process. Like my favorite blaster, the Busby Destiny. There's a little setup to it. Loading the darts into the harmonica clip, putting the clip in, pump it up a number of times, and then unleash a hailstorm. Well, this is kind of the same. You load it, pump it, fire it, and it says something that you can still have fun with a blaster that's been out for well past half a decade. It won't be long before this thing is a decade old, and it's still good enough for me to use and have fun with. And that's what this whole series is going to be about. Blasters, for the most part, blasters that are fun, goofy, and at least somewhat have some entertainment value even now, well after they've been introduced. This is Mongoose Jake, looking back at the Busby Rangemaster Extreme, and this has been the first episode in, of course, what I said would be an ongoing series called Blaster Throwback. Hope you enjoyed this little tidbit of history from the blaster hobby, and thanks for watching.